Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Yeah, I am alive. Thank you. Truly, thank you for those of you who checked in. It's October 23, just to place us. And before I get into, explanations as to my absence, let me just say that I saw the greatest quote about the beauty of fall. And on a sunny day like today, it absolutely shows itself. It's a quote by Camus, and he said, "Autumn is a second spring when every leaf is a flower." Isn't that wonderful? It is truly, truly beautiful. And I hope you've had or been able to have the opportunity to take it in. I just this morning came upon another quote which blew me away. It's attributed to Lenin. I don't mean John. I mean Vladimir. It's attributed to Lenin, but boy, does it ring true. He supposedly said, there are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades happen. And obviously, the reason that quote rings true to our ears is we are living in the latter. We are living in weeks where decades happen. I have felt such despair in the last weeks that it took me down. And that is why I wasn't here with you. It took me down to a place I honestly have never been. And I couldn't quite comprehend or even define all of the emotions I was feeling. Just like right now, as I'm talking to you, I'm struggling not to start crying. And in fact, that is the odd thing. I haven't cried. And I feel like I'm walking on eggshells just to bring this up. I've always felt like I'm walking on eggshells when I try to explain my interior, when it involves my being a Jew. I'm fully aware, as I've been all my life, that most people aren't what I am. And I also, throughout my life, have learned that Jews who bring up Jewish history are not welcomed. People don't want to hear it. And I think I'm mostly thinking about the Holocaust. I think that at some point, people just thought, shut the fuck up. Other peoples have had plenty of trouble. You Jews just keep on whining. I could feel that. I am a very empathetic person. And so I always felt, in all the years I've done talk radio, I've always been proudly identifying as a Jew, but I have shied away from subjects that would make me talk about. It's so hard to. And I see right now, I just want to say, if right now you're tuning out or you're saying, oh, geez, Cullen, shut the fuck up already. I want you to know that I think it is rare for a person, whether they're conscious of it or not to be, in some measure, an anti-Semite, including a lot of Jews. Okay, I'm not giving the Jews a break here either. And I think the reason is that the Jews have had this 2,000-year run as a put upon and hated minority group. And what's so astonishing is how small we are. What a tiny, tiny piece of the world's humanity we are. And yet we're forever being blamed for everything. It's like a fucking joke. If things aren't going well, it doesn't even matter if there's any Jews in the country where things aren't going well. Somebody's going to say Jews. Jews. And that's why I am saying that this poison of the Jew as some kind of a malevolent force, of a powerful, invisible people who control everything. It is so alive and has been for millennia. It is taken in by people who've never met a Jew. It is understood. Even if somebody never knows or hasn't met a Jew, they have ideas about a Jew. In fact, just saying the word Jew, and I have mentioned this before, I know a lot of people who can't say that word. Jew. There's something that in their heads or hearts or whatever, they think it's a pejorative because it's how they've always experienced it. So that's how, when throughout my life, I've encountered people who have said to me things like, so you're of the Jewish persuasion? I'm something like that. I mean, like, not just, you could just say, so you're a Jew, but they can't say that because Jew is so we're Jewish. I've talked of my astonishment when forgive me if I'm repeating myself, how I once on when I was doing radio, how I once described myself as a raven-haired Jewess. And the phones rang off the hook. And it was mostly Jews. Jewish women calling in saying, Lynn, don't call yourself that. It's a pejorative. I was so blown away. I thought, how the hell could the word that describes who I am, a female Jew, Jewess, how could that be a pejorative? And they said, look it up. And I did. And you know what it said? Pejorative. The very word for what I am is a pejorative. It's why people have trouble saying Jew. So I have no idea what to tell you except that I have felt, and I was feeling last week, such grief, such a feeling of aloneness, of abandonment, kind of oh my God, this is it. This is happening in my lifetime. I'm seeing this Jew hate. It has, and I'm hardly alone here. I was at the Giant Eagle last Thursday, and I saw a woman who I hadn't seen in a long time. I had been on a trip with her to Israel. She's part of a group. And we saw each other, and she put her arms out, and she said, I need a hug. And there we were holding each other so tight in the spaghetti aisle, just holding each other and not wanting to let go. No words needing to be said. I read this thing that the editor-in-chief of The Week magazine wrote. He said, when is it appropriate to celebrate the slaughter of civilians? He said, I would assume most people would say, well, never. But in the wake of the massacre of so many civilians in Israel, it has become clear, he said, that a not insubstantial group believes it is morally acceptable to murder civilians. And it's brought up this, for a lot of progressive Jews, it has brought up this reality that some have been reluctant to acknowledge, others less so, that there is a really strong strain of anti-Semitism on the left, despite the fact that there are so many Jews there. Or maybe it's because, I don't know. And so I've had to do a lot of thinking about, with the left and how they understand the world and how they see themselves. They see themselves as kind, a generous of heart, humanitarian, feeling the struggles and humiliations of marginalized people. Right? I put myself in that self-congratulatory group. But what has become so clear is that Jews cannot ever be seen as a marginalized and or victimized group to the left. Can't. They can't do it. It's why when they complain that being anti-Israel is not anti-Semitic, Jews who are a little bit ahead of them think, you want to make a bet? Because a lot of you are anti-Semitic. If somehow the humanity that the left wallows in, the understanding of people suffering, never can extend to Jews. Because Jews are, well, mostly are, white. And if you're white, according to this leftist catechism, you are then a part of a privileged group. You're part of the oppressors. So, I mean, the left now, to me, needs to start doing some serious self-critical thought, engage in it, and get themselves out of their normal comfort zone and tell me how sorting people into groups, good people, bad people, good group, bad group, how that is a good way, a reasonable way to try to make some kind of sense of this roiling, chaotic world. But that's how they do it. Your identity. And frankly, and I think anyone who's been listening to me for a long time knows that I have been getting mightily weary of this putting people in boxes crap that the left does. It leads to lefties celebrating the slaughter of children. Because those children, sorry, they were not in one of our boxes of people we weep for. They were children of the people we put in the oppressor class. Suffering Jews, fuck them. I hate all these ideologies. I always call them ideologies because it makes me think of idiot. Anybody who succumbs to an ideology, and this thing to me involves religion too, anybody who just full-throated throws in with an ideological perspective of the world is first of all being lazy, right? Lazy. Not being able to deal with things in the complexity with which they inevitably present themselves. Sick of it. Okay. I haven't really even begun, but I guess people are calling in. I guess. Okay. Come on in. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I will just say this to you as a starting point, and you might find this strange. I hope you don't. But as a Christian who has listened to you virtually ever since you started, Lynn, since the day you moved to Pittsburgh, I consider you my sister. I consider you,
I want to tell you something.
I'm just going to leave it at that, okay? But I just want that. I'm sorry. I just want that to stand on its own. It doesn't need to be, responded to necessarily. But I do. It's funny that you were talking about how, the appellations that people use earlier a few minutes ago, and this is something that I have wanted to ask you about for a long time, and just never seemed right. So now, today it seems right. If I meet somebody, on the street, and I say to them something like, I met Lynn Cullen today, is the, for lack of a completely, better, more appropriate word, is the right thing to say, and she's a Jew, or she is Jewish. What?
Both are correct.
And the amazing thing is, okay, but what I find myself thinking, and this is a therapist in me talking, okay? I find myself thinking, if I were to say, and she's a Jew, I can almost feel myself with some of that latent, there's a pejorative tone that comes out that I can hear in my own words if I say she's a Jew versus if I say, and she's Jewish, because that softens it.
It softens it.
Yes, it does soften it. But just what are your thoughts about that generally?
I mean, first of all,
would it matter to you? In other words,
no,
not that you would even,
as I said,
bring the conversation, but would it matter?
No, as I both statements are true. She is a Jew and she is Jewish. I just am very aware of the difficulty non-Jews have of saying Jew. I hear it all the time. The avoidance of it, and I've always found it. I just have been aware of it all my life.
Yeah.
So that just tells, and you become aware constantly of people struggling with this internalized sense of something evil. I guess, I don't know.
Yes.
Something that you wouldn't want to, call somebody you seem to like a Jew. I mean, they're a Jew, but it's something. I don't know, but it's been internalized, as I said, forgot who called it this. Maybe I forgot, but they said that anti-Semitism is the world's oldest conspiracy theory, oldest and most absolutely, extraordinarily unkillable conspiracy theory. And it has been alive in the hearts and minds of the world's population for so long that there is no getting rid of it, I suspect. I just had never in my lifetime seen it so clearly and felt it at such a visceral a level that brought me to my knees. I literally couldn't function for a few days last week.
Yes. I hope you will take my initial comment in the spirit that it was meant.
Oh, of course.
I know you are my sister, and I know your people are my brothers and sisters, and that's a Christian man saying that to you. Okay.
Bless you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I have been so grateful to people who have reached out to me in the last few weeks, non-Jews, who have said, "Are you okay?" Just understanding. And the answer is I'm not. And I don't think many Jews are. I was looking at a question. I know I have a caller. I'll get right to you. There was the Jewish newspaper here. It's called the Jewish Chronicle. Has a poll question every week, and they asked last week, do you have close friends or relatives in Israel? And 76% said yes. So because we're such a small people, so few of us, is why I laugh every time I think the world thinks we're so. If we were so powerful, why would we keep getting ourselves slaughtered? We're a small people. And despite the efforts of so many over so much history to get rid of us, either send us packing, creating the wandering Jew, Jews with no home, Jews on the run. But we, of course, are not a beleaguered group. Tell the lefties, they're brilliant. The most beleaguered group, people in world history. That it's almost a joke. Don't fit into their box of who is capable of being a victim. That the left, just 75 years after the friggin' genocidal Holocaust that wiped out half of Jews in the world, they say Jews cannot be victims. Sons of bitches. Is the other caller still there? God help them. Hello?
Hi. So a couple minutes ago, you made the comment about not putting everyone in boxes.
And now I am.
You sure are, because I'm on the left, and I'd like to know when I ever said that sentence that you just said. Since all lefties have said it.
Are you the one who sent me that lovely email?
And what did I say in it?
I don't know. I have since it's not in front of me anymore. But it was a screed, and it put words in my mouth that I had never
No, I
said.
quoted you in that email.
No, you did not.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Listen. Okay.
I listened to the recording of your show several times and quoted you.
Okay, I can't believe you're listening. Why are you still listening?
Been listening to you for years, and every time this topic comes up, you turn into a hypocrite.
And you don't think the left is hypocritical? Celebrating so many?
Well, first of all, if you recall, you're on the left.
Not where you guys are, nor do I.
When have I celebrated it, Mrs. Don't Put People in Boxes? You're making stuff up. Who celebrated it? One group in New York? How many groups have you come up with celebrating it? A couple here and there? What about the whole huge percentage of the country that's with you?
Are you kidding me? Have you not?
No, I'm not. Give me all these cited sources of these celebrations. I've heard of a handful here and there. The overwhelming majority of people on the left are with you, but you keep talking about a couple groups you saw somewhere on a TV or in a newspaper. They're not with you.
All right. Well, listen, let me just tell you this. Tell that to any Jew who is a student on any major university campus in this country. You tell that to.
So now all university students that aren't Jews are in the same box. You keep putting people in boxes and then complaining that everyone's putting you in a box. You're a hypocrite, Lynn. So don't complain about putting people in boxes if you're doing it.
Hey, get him off. Thank you. Goodbye. I don't have the ability to do it myself. Just get him off. I did not say that every non-Jew on a campus. I said that ask a Jewish student on any college campus these days if they feel, because they don't. That doesn't suggest that anybody who's not a Jew on that college campus is out to get them. I can't argue with that guy. He doesn't hear me. He's not listening to me. Jews, a woman named Dara Horn. Oh, that's who that is. She's the one who wrote that book called People Love Dead Jews. I think I mentioned it the other day. I have not read it. I didn't put two and two together here. She wrote a guest essay in the New York Times today, and I think she did a really good explanation. And if you will, because you'll keep me from screaming and I can just talk in a normal tone. She said, she spoke for me. And so let me hear her more reasoned explanation of where so many Jews are right now, okay? She says, there is a reason so many Jews cannot stop shaking right now. The concept of intergenerational trauma doesn't begin to describe the dark place into which this month's attack plunged Jews around the world. I will skip over if she talks about the massacre and she says, you know, in at least one instance, well, murdering, abducting children, grandparents, pulling them from their beds, displaying their dead bodies online. In one instance, uploading a video of the murder of one young victim to her own social media account for her family to discover. And Dara Horn says this, the feeling of deep dread. It's interesting because dread is the word I've found myself using. The feeling of deep dread that these atrocities stirred in Jews was horribly familiar. This is what Jewish history has all too often looked like. Not civilians tragically killed in war, but civilians publicly targeted, tortured, and murdered, with the crimes put on public display. Accounts of past crowd-pleasing killings are folded into Jewish tradition. Every Yom Kippur, we recount the public torture and execution of rabbis by their Roman oppressors in a packed second century stadium. Those ancient stories are consistent with the experiences of the more immediate ancestors of nearly every Jew alive. And I'm not even talking about the Holocaust, she said, which several of last week's oldest escapees and victims also endured. The fact is, far more Jews were killed 2 weeks ago by Hamas than were killed on Kristallnacht. She says, no, I'm thinking of other massacres. The Farhud pogrom in 1941, Baghdad, why should you know? A 2-day rampage in which hundreds of Jews were raped, tortured and murdered. I'm thinking of the pogroms of 1918 to 1921 in Ukraine, in which an estimated 100,000 Jews were slaughtered in organized massacres reminiscent of this month's attack. I'm thinking of how many of the earliest books printed in Europe were about the executions of Jews accused of blood libel and of a 10th century massacre of thousands of Jews in the Spanish Caliphate, encouraged by a poem calling for Jewish blood, and of the paintings and illuminated manuscripts showing Jews who were burned alive by the Spanish Inquisition. All crowd-pleasing events celebrated in popular media and art. Even ancient Romans celebrated their destruction of Judea by issuing commemorative coins featuring a bound Jewish woman and inscribed with the words Judea capta. The humiliation and murder of Jews have always made a great meme. Many American Jews, like Jews around the world, are descendants of those who survived. Our ancestors, in one way or another, were the ones who either made lucky decisions or barely made it out alive. From Poland and Russia and Romania and Lithuania and Aleppo and Tehran and on and on and on. For diaspora Jews, the recent attacks were not distant overseas events. As was true in ancient times, the ties between global Jewish communities and Israel are concrete, specific, intimate, and personal. Millions of American Jews, not to mention Jews in Britain, France, Australia, and elsewhere, have friends and relatives in Israel, even if Hamas hadn't made it clear that they see all Jews as targets. Our connection is personal and all too real. We spent days desperately scrolling to learn who among our acquaintances was dead, maimed, or captive, all while fighting obtuse official statements from our towns, schools, companies, universities that refuse to mention the words Israel or Jews in referring to the largest single-day massacre of Jews since the Holocaust, lest some anti-Semite take offense at the existence of either. We have tried to get our children off social media, shielding them from images of the violence. We have held mass fasts, recited psalms, sung ancient prayers for the rescue of captives. And as we gather by the thousands, despite our many contradictory opinions and despite the extra security required for our gatherings, even here in the United States, we have returned to the words of our ancestors that have carried us through thousands of years. Be strong and courageous. Choose life. What defines Jewish life is not history's litany of horror, but the Jewish people's creative resilience in the face of it. In the wake of many catastrophes over millennia, we have wrestled with God and one another, reinvented our traditions, revived our language, rebuilt our communities, and found new meanings in our old stories of freedom and responsibility. Each story animated by the improbable and unwavering belief that people can change. Many of us right now feel trapped in this old story. But the story continues. We begin again. Speaking to a lot of Jews and even friends who are not Jews, many do remark on the deafening silence we feel around us. Just so you know, I mean, if you care, I met a Jew and met him before the Friday night, Saturday, and he told me that he's bought guns. I said, "You gotta be kidding me! Are you kidding me? Jeez!" He says, "Hey, coming after me, I'm at least going to take out some of them." And I'm thinking, this is God, humans. God help us. God help us. I'm hoping against hope that the very active president of a Jewish congregation outside of Detroit, who was brutally murdered this weekend, I'm hoping against hope that proves not to be the hate crime I suspect it is. 40-year-old woman, extremely active in progressive politics in Michigan. Stabbed to death, her body dragged. Hoping. Did you see the quote from the professor at Cornell who called it exhilarating, the massacre? Exhilarating. That's what he said. The massacre. Exhilarating. This is a guy who's a professor at one of our big universities. Mm-hmm. It's on tape. He said it. You can hear it. He was talking to a crowd of celebrants. I have a caller. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Lynn. This is Beth. I wasn't going to call, but with that last caller, I kind of felt like I needed to come to your defense. What that last caller did in your time of grief, mourning, what you're trying to deal with, being an oppressed class as a Jew, and knowing what it's like to be in an oppressed class where people go in and shoot up nightclubs, etc. Yeah. If you are truly a liberal, instead of calling this lady a hypocrite, show some compassion, so show some understanding of the process she's trying to go through, instead of coming on and attacking at her lowest moment. If you really want to have a debate as a intellectual liberal, as you self-proclaimed, then you know what? Give it some time. Come up with some non-aggressive words. But I found what you did as a proclaimed liberal, what you just did to this woman, atrocious at this time and offensive.
Thank you. Thank you. I doubt he's listening, but thank you.
You know what? I thought that too, but Lynn, I just had a call. I just thought,
thank you.
You know what? When these things happen, and again, as a Jew, for me being a lesbian, when you have these attacks in these communities, it's weird. It's like you go into this, as you said, it's just kind of this time of darkness. There's no other way to describe it but that.
Right.
You know, that's why any woman who was sexually assaulted during the Brett Kavanaugh trial, everyone was reliving it all over again. And if that person was so vapid to call and attack you at this particular time, I just, like I said, all I could say is offensive. You should be ashamed. And as far as the educational thing, why don't you look at Michigan State? They showed a picture of Hitler at their football game. So, you know what? Maybe you need to find some compassion. And I'm not going to call you a gentleman or sir, because your action was worthy of neither title.
Thank you. Thank you, Beth.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
Try to mend.
I'm trying. I'm living in absolute dread because of what's going to happen. What's going to happen. I'm really worrying that this will get bigger and bigger. The war, the regional war. I'm scared to death. This is how world wars start.
Yeah, I think that's why everyone's paying such attention to it, because first of all, it's such a small geographic area. But when you look at what surrounds it, it's something that can explode very quickly. And, you know, the protests you had going on in Yemen, I thought to myself, okay, come on. Don't tell me stuff. I kind of wonder, isn't Saudi Arabia stoking those fires too within Yemen?
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, you know, the thing is to see the Arab world who has done next to nothing ever to help the Palestinians, truly. They use them all the time. And they stopped using them for a while. Well, they're enjoying this again because there's a fervor in this anti-Israel thing that just gets their blood going. I'm just terrified that Iran is going to be pulled in, or that Israel, who we have to remember, is still run by a lunatic, Netanyahu.
Well,
I'm
and
scared
I think
to death that he's the prime minister now. I wish they just thrown him out immediately, because he brought this on in large part. I don't know. I don't know, but I'm scared. I am scared. There are so many more innocent children who are going to die because of this.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Netanyahu is not the person that needs to be in that position right now.
Oh God!
But the sad part is the Israeli citizenry is just still. I mean, you have to think of us as a country after 9/11. I mean, no one was thinking straight for a long time, and we had George W. Bush.
Well, it's what Biden said. You know, it's what Biden said. I thought Biden's speech, by the way, was wondrous. I really did. I think he's really working this as well as he can. And he's trying to thread needles. And I don't know, anyone will tell you that the Middle East is impossible. It's an impossible thing to navigate when it gets this crazy.
Right. And everybody's tried to do it, from Carter to
from
Clinton.
Well, even before there wasn't Israel. This is you know what I've always said. I think, you know, if there is some grand plan somewhere, this was called, at least when I was in school, I learned that this area was called the cradle of civilization. Right? Do you remember that term?
Oh,
the cradle of civilization. And I understand that. And I remember ruefully thinking on more than one occasion in my life, and I'm afraid it will be the grave of civilization.
I wish I could argue with you on this one, Lynn.
That's right.
And that's studying that area for so long. My only other thing is I brought up George W. Bush. I have to say, after Biden going, and also, you know, Biden's too old to run again, all this stuff, I have to say, he has shown some stuff that I didn't think he had, number one. I mean, and you need someone who's older and experienced. And you know what? He is someone I'm hoping that knows enough how to play the political role that he might be able to put Bibi in a box and let cooler heads prevail within that government. One can only hope.
Well, I don't think. Yeah.
I was surprised George W. Bush came out with, he did a statement at a conference just saying he complimenting Biden on his handling of this situation. And I thought, you know what, that's from our government's perspective, something we need more of a rallying cry of support in this situation, because as you said, it's a powder keg that could go off.
And we won't even note that one of our major political parties has hogtied the legislative branch of our government. We don't have a functional government right now because of the Republicans. And their extraordinary dysfunction doesn't even begin to describe where they are. And it is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing.
I hope I got you in a different place, is all I can say.
Thank you. Okay,
enjoy some sun today. Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. Yeah, I will. Sarah writes, I heard you mention Dara Horn's book, People Love Dead Jews. I read it when it first came out, and I urge you to read it. The book is not exactly what the title implies, that people love to kill Jews. It is rather about how countries benefit from the interest in Jews after they have used them, thrown them out, or killed them. I believe it is a collection of essays. I was most pleasantly surprised by her ending. Well, I guess I'll have to read it. Yeah. I also want to say that I do think, and I mentioned this, I think last week, I think this is for progressives. Again, I think a lot of Jews in Allegheny County, and I'm not one of them, I've already voted, are going to peel away from Inamorado now because of, let me just tell you that in the Jewish newspaper, somebody paid, do they say? Oh, this is paid for by a group called Save Allegheny County. Now, these are essentially, the establishment guys and Republicans. They took out a big half-page ad that says this: the Democratic Socialist Party stands against Israel. Sarah Inamorado stood with the Democratic Socialist Party. And then there's a picture of smiling Sarah and Summer Lee and some other people I cannot. And it doesn't matter that Sarah has left the Democratic Socialists of America, has decried their statement about the massacre. But this is an ad that says, "Take a stand, vote in support of Israel, vote Joe Rocky, Republican." And this is something that the Inamorado campaign did not see coming. There are a lot of Jews that support her. And the same with Summer Lee. And I have to say, I have been disappointed in Summer Lee. She is my representative. I've not been happy with things that have been said by her. And will be not necessarily inclined. This is how the left always falls apart. They always, I mentioned Lenin before, Lenin and Trotsky and this and that. They always start peeling parts of them off where a whole part of them feels all of a sudden not quite welcome, not quite able to, and it disintegrates. The left is forever self-sabotaging in this way, by reaching, I don't know. I don't ask that I will be able to explain it. And I saw this picture of this video of a woman at some college campus speaking about Hamas favorably as a queer American. And I'm thinking, you idiot. You idiot. Hamas would kill you in a second. They persecute gays. They subjugate women. They execute anybody who looks at them cross-eyed. But yes, there's a proud queer in America supporting them. The head reels. Little Tony writes, that hateful guy that called. I've heard his calls many times over the years, and he's always, yeah, he is. It's why I knocked him off. He's never wanting to have, I don't know who he is. He never wants to have dialogue. He's always, well, as Tony says, he's just always ready to pounce. He doesn't call to engage in a respectful way. He contributes nothing, says Tony. What a hateful creep. You're in my thoughts. I hope somehow things will get better. Thank you. Thank you. Ed says, I feel so saddened at the feelings you are experiencing as a non-Jew. I'm amazed at groups asking for non-funding for Israel without putting any mention or giving responsibility to Hamas for putting the civilians for massacring. I'm sorry for the insensitive call. Stay strong. Thank you, Ed. Gigi writes, good morning. Perhaps I missed something at the end of your last show last week telling us that you would be. No, you didn't. I didn't know I was taking a day off. I just, after the show, I realized I was just walking around like a zombie. I was walking around like a zombie, and then I fell into my bed, and I slept for the first time in a long time. I had not been able to sleep at all. And then when I woke up, I thought, I can't. I have to, I think it's called self-care, right? Thank you. I appreciate the support. Jody says, with the massacre in Israel, the war and slaughter in Ukraine, she's saying, she's talking of sense of dread as well. She says it's like being thrown back in the 1940s. It breaks my heart to see the stories of what people went through in Israel, but I fear there's a lot more death coming. Yeah. For the first time ever, I considered buying a gun, but I just can't. It's so sad to see people celebrating the killings. And I share your anxiety about this growing into a world war. Thank you, Jody. Well, yeah. Hey, on the bright side of things, I just want to say, Bonnie Willis, whoa, Bonnie Willis, she's got Trump. She's got him. She's got him. She's brilliant. Remember all the people saying, oh no, this is crazy. She's she charged 19 people? That's too unwieldy. It'll take forever and blah, blah, blah. She's been peeling them off peeling them away so that now they're all turning. They're turning, and they're going to testify for the prosecution. And he is toast. It's Fonnie Willis who's going to be the one to my guess is take the SOB, this traitorous SOB down. I had hoped to talk today about that, the Australian connection. I don't know if you saw the 60 Minutes Australia. I didn't know 60 Minutes had an Australian version. They had an amazing piece about Trump and this Australian billionaire who's been playing him and walking away with secrets and then sharing those secrets with everybody and anybody. This is unbelievable, treasonous behavior. So that story now seems like a respite. It used to be the thing that got me all freaked out. Now it's like a respite for me. So anyway, guys, thank you. I will. I'll try to keep my head together. I haven't been doing such a good job of it, but I will try. Thank you for being there, and I'll be back tomorrow with my sister Susan. Enjoy this beauty of a day.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.